Huddle Up Podcast is sponsored by Arena Eats. Log on to the website arenaeats.app, that's arenaeats.app, for the ultimate fan experience. At your favorite sports venue, Arena Eats mobile app, pre-order, express pickup, and in-seat delivery. How do you place your order? We're going to talk some of the bigger games in college football this upcoming weekend, but I want to go back here to a comment from Scotty. And obviously for us, this past weekend was a pretty good one. We haven't had a win like this as Notre Dame fans in a very long time. Since 1993 was the last time they beat the number one team in the country, obviously beating Clemson, ending their 36-game regular season win streak. Scotty says, with how Notre Dame played on Saturday, can they compete with Alabama or Ohio State? Yes. Yes, I think they can compete. I don't know if they can beat Alabama. I think they can beat Ohio State. Ohio State, I think you approach the game in a very similar way to how you beat Clemson. You have to make them one-dimensional, and you have to try to limit big plays. And that's what Notre Dame was able to do. Any success Notre Dame has is going to go through the defense first. You know, they kept Travis Etienne to under 100 yards of total offense. That's how you beat Clemson.
Which is unreal.
Yeah, absolutely. And his first run was 10 yards. The rest of his runs, I think, he had 17 rushes for like 50 yards after a 10-yard run on his. So he had like 18 carries for 60 yards, but the first one went for 10. Like, they did a tremendous job. He scored, and Clemson scored, and they had a couple of big plays. They had a 50-yard pass.
He had a big reception, Etienne.
No, that wasn't Etienne that caught that one. That was the receiver because Etienne had one out on a screen that went pretty long. It may not have been 50 yards. Yeah, the 50-yarder was that touchdown. That was to a wide receiver. That was like, what was the stat I shared with you and Dad? It was like the first time Notre Dame had given up a play over 50 yards since like the 2018 bowl game or something. Like it's a ridiculous stat, especially considering Notre Dame's had such bad defenses for a number of years. But I think they can beat Ohio State. They can compete with Alabama. I don't know if they can beat Alabama. I don't want to find out at least until the national championship game. But yeah, I think they could absolutely compete with them.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking competitive, I would say absolutely. I mean, for one thing, I'm still hearing, a lot of people say, if Trevor Lawrence is out there, that game's not close. I don't know how you can really say that. I mean, he plays similarly. Obviously, the experience is there, and it's a slightly different, game plan. But, I heard, before and even after the game, interviews with Brian Kelly about the game plan really hasn't changed against Clemson since they played him with Deshaun Watson.
Right.
It's the same basic defensive plan. You're going to have a lot of screens. You're going to have a lot of disguised plays, and you got to be aware that it could happen anytime. You got to kind of cheat up with some safeties, and it's going to cost you some plays.
Yeah.
And that's why Clemson, makes some money on the big play. But I'll say one thing: that kid can play.
Well, this is the third time.
Freshman, he could have stepped into a lot of programs,
sure,
and started for 4 years.
Yeah, this
is not just like a oh man, we found this diamond in the rain. He could have. He had calls from a lot of programs. Yeah. He wanted to go there. He wanted, and
he
sit
knew
for
that
a year
this is going to be Lawrence's last year.
Yeah,
this is the third time that the Notre Dame's played Clemson. Brian Kelly has faced Dabo Swinney once with Deshaun Watson.
Game in the swamp, right, with Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, it was in a hurricane. Shouldn't even have been played.
We should have won that game.
Yeah, shouldn't even have been played, quite frankly. But that's neither here nor there either.
6-9 or something. Who knows?
And then in the college football playoff in Trevor Lawrence's freshman year, the same year that Uiagalele's, he's a true freshman as well. So it's not. It's not like he's doing something that Trevor Lawrence didn't. Trevor Lawrence is a true freshman and let him do a national title.
If Trevor Lawrence would have declared for the NFL draft, this DJ kid would have been their starter for the full season.
Yeah.
Like, he was already committed. He's coming there. He's going to play. He was highly recruited. I think for that reason is that if he goes, we've got our guy. But this guy played real well. And the other thing people need to remember is, like, yes, it went to double overtime. Yes, Notre Dame scored in dramatic fashion, which, first of all, when's the last time Notre Dame did that before overtime like that? Like, didn't hang their heads down, came down and made a play. And I saw that. I think I told you and our dad in a text message when it was kind of – I felt both of you waning. I felt you guys just, here it goes. You know, there's nothing wrong with that.
I was dead. I was dead.
But I had seen Ian Book. Book had made a mistake in the red zone.
That fumble, I was done.
After that fumble, his next two possessions, brilliant. I saw a lot of just moxie and grit, and I was like, I like where his head's at. I like where his eyes are at, and I think he's going to lead us to a score. And sure enough, there he went. And
minute 19, he drove that team down and scored.
Notre Dame did have at least 3 possessions where they should have had more points than they got.
Yes.
They had a 3, and a 0 that should have been 7, 7, and 7.
Absolutely.
And if any of those 3 become scores, I'm not so sure Clemson gets back in it. You know, like, Clemson had to make a push there to get back in that game.
Yeah.
Notre Dame had control, and maybe it was the kids settling in, for them. But so when you factor all those things in, not to mention the fact that, you take the quarterback away, level the playing field a little bit, and you let our coaching staff kind of coach against Clemson coaching staff. I think for a while there, Kelly was winning a chess match, and then it kind of turned around. But he showed he can, on a game day, outcoach just anybody that he wants to outcoach.
I think this was Ian Book's best game. This was Brian Kelly's best coach game of his career by far. I love the way the offense. I was nervous last year before the bowl game when they announced Tommy Rees as the offensive coordinator. I thought, man, that's pretty bold. Like, the youngest offensive coordinator in college football. I thought, this is wow. It's
not even like he was that effective.
No, like, he wasn't a great
as a player
quarterback, but like, he remember that year in 2012 when they went to the BCS national title game, he was the closer. Like, Golson was the starter, and when they needed a big drive, Tommy Rees came in. So it's not that he was terrible, but he just wasn't. I never would have imagined. And I've seen a lot of theories, and it kind of makes sense.
He wasn't the guy to put up the points when you had to pad stats. But he was the guy that, like, hey, we don't want a mistake. Get in here.
Yeah, like, almost like an Alex Smith in a way. Like, he's not going to win you games, but he's not going to lose you games. But I've seen a lot of theories, too, that they think that he's being groomed to be the event to take over for Brian Kelly, similar to how Lincoln Riley took over from Bob Stoops when Bob Stoops retired, which, Kelly signed what was a 5-year extension this year, plans to retire after it. That kind of makes sense. Keep him in that job.
As long as things, stay the course and everything looks good and you're able to adapt. Obviously people are going to adapt to you. You got to be able to constantly change and get the work in. Am I afraid of Boston College? Not on paper.
We'll talk about that.
Knowing it's hanging out there is horrifying. But if you're asking me, can we be competitive with the best teams in the country? I think you just proved that.
100%. Notre Dame proved that And yeah, the jokes have been written for 20 plus years about how they can win the easy ones but not win the hard ones. Sometimes it was justified, other times it wasn't. But they showed on Saturday that this Notre Dame team is different and gives us something to be excited about. So Sean, let's go to the picks now, and we will. We'll go a little quicker through these than we normally do, just because we
definitely
get a little long-winded there, but definitely good discussion. Last week I was 3-2 against the spread, 17-12 overall in college football. You were 4-1, 23-6 overall. Ooh. So I still have some ground to pick up on you here.
Still firing.
But like I said, we're going to start in Lincoln, Nebraska. We don't typically predict games with two undefeated or unranked teams, but we're going to do it because we talked about them in the top. 0-3 Penn State. They're a 3-point road favorite at 0-2 Nebraska. 56.5 is the over/under. Noon on FS1. Don't know why you'd want to watch it, but it's on FS1.
It's on there. Get your cable. Get your cable packages.
I'm gonna give Nebraska the home edge. Penn State may win by like 1, but I'm going to say Nebraska's going to cover. I would love to, I still hate Penn State, so I would love to see the upset happen. I guess you can call it an upset at this point. But I'm taking the under. I think both these teams stink out loud. They might be lucky to hit 50 combined. So Nebraska plus in the under.
Gosh, I don't like I knew what question was coming. I knew what we were going to discuss. I did not expect to have to pick this game.
Yeah, I don't. Look at behind the scenes. I don't give these guys a tip. I don't tip my hat on what games we're predicting.
Well, all right. Well, let's go. You like Nebraska at home. I'm not going to fall into the same trap I fell into last week. It worked for me in college football. My NFL record not quite as good last week. I got into a pattern. I can't get into the pattern. Got to pick smart. But I think, just based on the skill positions that are there, I'm going to take Penn State in this game. I think Penn State, that 3-point favorite. If I was, if I'm a betting person, I'm going to throw some money out on some college games this week. Maybe I sprinkle a little on Penn State, part of a parlay, because for all intents and purposes, there's no reason from a talent perspective they should lose this game.
Right, they should win this game.
Now, having said that, based on what I've seen in the track record, 52 points to Ohio State, only 21 to Northwestern, but who in the world's throwing the ball or catching the ball for Northwestern?
They're leading that division because of Wisconsin.
Oh, I'm aware. I'm aware of everything that's going on there, and it's a hot mess. But what I will say is that neither team, to me, when a team actually has skill position players, is going to be able to stop anybody. So you're right. They're both terrible, but they're also both terrible on defense. So I think the offense is push. I take the over, and I take the Nittany Lions.
Huddle Up Podcast is sponsored by Arena Eats. Log on to the website arenaeats.app, that's arenaeats.app, for the ultimate fan experience. At your favorite sports venue, Arena Eats mobile app, pre-order, express pickup, and in-seat delivery. How do you place your order? All right, then we go to who would have thought we were going to predict 2 Coastal Carolina games this year? Number 15, Coastal Carolina. This is not a good week of college football, by the way. Not a good week. Yeah. There is not a matchup.
I think you're trying to test my 24-6 or whatever.
There is not. Sean, I've done a week like this already, and I'm still 6 games behind you, so it's not like I'm gaining ground on it. But there is not a game where 2 top 25 teams play each other. Number 15, Coastal Carolina. They're 7-0, 8.5 point road favorite at Troy, 4-3. 50.5 is the over/under, noon on ESPNU. I'm going to go Coastal Carolina. Keep that thing rolling. This team's having a blast, and I'm taking the over.
Yeah, Coastal Carolina, fun team to watch. I love the mullets. I love the party. I love everything about it. It's like a tailgate at a Lynyrd Skynyrd concert, and I love everything about it. I do like Troy. He's a real nice guy. I don't think he's going to fare very well against 11 guys at any point. But no, seriously, Troy's program in general has had some big wins, chances to upset teams. Maybe that happens here. I don't think so. I'm with you. Train keeps rolling. Give me Coastal Carolina and the over.
Then we go to Western Carolina. They travel to – if you needed any more proof that 2020 is wacky, number 22, Liberty. They are 7-0. Western Carolina's 0-0. This is their first game. Number 22, Liberty, Sean, is a 32.5 point home favorite. The over/under 60.5
against a team that hasn't played yet.
Against a team that hasn't played. This one's at noon on ESPN3. You can find this game online. I'm going to take Western Carolina to cover the 32.5. Liberty's going to win this game, but 32.5 is a gigantic number. It is huge. It is huge. So Western Carolina's going to cover, and I'm taking the over.
Yeah, I'm looking at Liberty's track record and see if they've won any games by 32. They won 1. They beat UL Monroe 40-7. That's the only one. Everything else they've given up at least 21 points. They have two 7-point. Yeah, I'm gonna take the same. I'm gonna take the cover, and I'm gonna take the over. I think there's a chance Liberty does this. In case you were wondering, Western Carolina's last game, they lost 66-3 to Alabama on November 23rd of last season. So can they give up a lot of points in one shot? Yup. I wouldn't touch this one with a 10-foot pole in Vegas. But yeah, give me the cover.
All right, then we go to the game that I'm pretty sure when this season started and when you and I predicted this season, we looked at our schedule and we said, okay, so we have Clemson on November 7th, and then the following week,
right?
Just like just like 1993 set up.
Yeah, who scheduled this?
Boston College. If you don't know the history, Notre Dame upset number 1 Florida State in 1993, and the next week hosted unranked Boston College and lost by a field goal. So number 2 Notre Dame, 7-0, and they're a 13.5-point road favorite at unranked Boston College. They are 5-3. 50.5 is the over-under on this one. It is 3:30 on ABC. And that, like, realistically, looking at what Notre Dame did last week, I should be confident going into this game. I should be like, we got this. But much like I started to wane a little bit when that Ian Book fumble happened, I'm nervous, Sean. I'm nervous. This game scares me. Like, it just feels like, it is still the calendar year is still 2020. So, like, I'm just looking at, like, we had something good. Is this the bad that follows the good? I think Boston College is going to cover the 13.5. They know the history too. Like these schools know the history. It's the only 2 Catholic Division I schools. Like it's an old rivalry. It's renewed. Boston College. They've done this to us another time. 2002. We weren't number 1 in the country, but we were undefeated, and they spoiled an undefeated season. So they've done this before. This Boston College team with former Notre Dame quarterback Phil Jurkovec. He's having a pretty good year. I think Boston College covers. Notre Dame wins this game, and that's all you need. Go to Chapel Hill, get the win. And I am going to take the over. I think our offense is going to keep rolling, but Boston College is a pretty good offense as well.
Yeah. Let's not forget that Boston College team that beat us in 1993 was like 8-2 or something like that at the time. It was not like they
just were unranked,
completely, unflawed team. It wasn't a out of this world upset. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing Boston College could do to salvage. Even if they were to lose the rest of the games this year, if their coach wins this game, he's fine for probably the next 2 or 3 years.
Oh, absolutely.
He wins this game. So, it's everything's for Notre Dame to lose. 13.5 points seems like I don't know. I don't even know who that spread favors, but I think you're right. I think, when you look at everything, you got to play this one on paper. You can't keep saying, well, what if they come out and, if you like playing the mysteries of sports and let's predict the unpredictable, sure. Go out, put your money on Boston College. Put all your money on Boston College. And then, tear up your ticket when the game's over, because Notre Dame's going to win this one handedly. This is a situation where it's not at the end of the season where it's like, oh, we're almost we have other games to play, including a North Carolina game. Kelly's got them pretty much one game at a time. I don't see any reason why Notre Dame doesn't win this game. I'd like us to cover as well, and I'll take the over.
All right, and then we go to the night game on ABC. It is number 13, Wisconsin. They are 1-0. Again, they won their first game, haven't played in 2 weeks. It'll be 3 weeks since by the time that the game is played. They're a 1.5-point road favorite at Michigan, who is 1-2. 51.5 is the over/under on this one. 7:30 on ABC. Man, like we were talking about, if you're Michigan, you have to be prepared. You have to come out and be ready for this game. That said, I feel like for whatever reason, and I don't know if it's the defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, if Harbaugh's losing the locker, I don't know what it is. I truly don't. But I just feel like it's snowballing at this point for Michigan, and I think Wisconsin wins. I think this may be one of those games where Michigan keeps it competitive. We talked about that. But I think in the end, Wisconsin gets it at 1.5. You're basically a win or lose at this point. I think Wisconsin wins this game, but I'm going to take the under. I think 3 weeks off for Wisconsin is going to hurt them. They always have a pretty good defense, so I think the points are going to stay tight.
Yeah, it's a strange one to pick because you're right. Michigan definitely needs this game. But the argument that Michigan needs it more is questionable because with a couple of weeks off and some games that may or may not get made up, if you're Wisconsin,
Big Ten's not making up games, so those games are gone.
They're toast.
For you to make the title game, the division winners are based on winning percentage.
Gotcha.
So Wisconsin needs it.
They need this game as much as anyone else. At least when you're because you're going to look at bowl bids too. Like it's not so much just win the Big Ten. You only played 4 games or 5 games. Who's putting their money in on you? But they came out, they thrashed Illinois, had to take a few weeks off. These players are chomping at the bit to play, maybe a bit too much. I think you're right, though. Wheels sputter. I will, too, take the Badgers. I will take kind of slow sputtering wheels from Wisconsin and another sloppy day out of Michigan to keep it under as well. So I don't think we're going to differ as much this week as we did last week.
No, and just because it's a weird week, like I didn't feel confident like locking any of these games. It's just a weird. It's a weird slate of games. So no locks from us here.
Notre Dame was as close to a lock as I got.
Yeah, and I mean
I know better.
I'm not. Well, I wasn't going to lock against the Irish, and like I said, Notre Dame still wins that game, but I wasn't about to lock against it. But we are going to pause.
By the way, I found it before we paused it. I did find. I was looking all over for it. If you wanted to know what the spread on the Boston College game in 1993 was, 14.5.
Wow.
In case you were wondering.
And 14 this year is 13.
But Boston College was ranked 16 in the country.
Okay, I thought they were unranked, so it wasn't 16. An unranked team. So,
yes.
Still see. I'll never forget when we went to we toured NBC Studios, and Notre Dame's been on NBC. Their home games on NBC for decades.
Yeah, for a long time.
The clip that they ran at NBC Studios in Manhattan was the clip of Boston College upsetting Notre Dame. We almost destroyed the lobby of 30 Rock.
It was bad. It was not good.
Like we had to be restrained by our friends in the NBC store when we saw that clip. It was not pretty. Huddle Up Podcast is sponsored by Arena Eats. Log on to the website arenaeats.app, that's arenaeats.app, for the ultimate fan experience. At your favorite sports venue, Arena Eats mobile app, pre-order, express pickup, and in-seat delivery. How do you place your order?